Hello and welcome to what for many of you is probably the first introduction to Canvas for you. And we're going to start with the foundations. My name is Mickey Wagner. I'm Chief Academic Officer for Concord Schools, and I'm going to give just a brief overview of today's discussion and really the entire Canvas rollout for Concord, and then our friendly DLSs will take over from here. So really our rollout of Canvas and the revamp of our strategic plan is focused in two big areas in terms of curriculum and instruction. So we have curriculum design, where we'll be focusing on using the Understanding by Design framework, which you all probably know as backwards planning. Some parts of that framework might be new to you, but really the concept of it probably won't be. And within that, systems of learning and scope and sequences that focus on mastery and competency, not compliance. And this will involve a fair amount of formative assessment. From there, we move to instructional design. So Canvas won't just be used as a curriculum design tool for us, but really an instructional design as we develop strong blended learning environments. And these will focus on effective and efficient design that uses the gradual release model. There'll be an emphasis on whole group instruction, explicit instruction, and purposeful checks for understanding. And really what we're looking for is a unified experience for students and parents K through 12 when it comes to blended and virtual learning, and effective and efficient systems for instruction. These two systems work together to create a mastery learning model for all of our students. So daily instruction and week-long, unit-long, semester-long curriculum design will all focus on and revolve around developing core competencies and developing mastery for our students. I hope you enjoy the course. Please reach out to Team DLS or your school administrators with any follow-up questions.
You just heard Mr. Wagner talking about mastery learning and how to teach gradual release through mastery learning. Today, we are going to focus on how Canvas will fit into the instructional framework, and we're going to start out by talking about some of the big rocks in Canvas and how those things fit together. We're going to talk about modules first, and then we'll move on to mastery paths, the mastery gradebook, and how you can personalize your Canvas course. Now, all of these things are just things that we're going to touch on today, but we'll get into everything a little bit more in depth next time.
One of the big reasons that the district decided to move towards Canvas was because of the feature of having modules within the course. So let's take our first big rock, module, and see what it is. Think of this as a file folder of your lessons. The file folder would be the module, and you would title it the name of your lesson, the topic you're on, or the unit. And then inside would be different pieces or components. So you might have pages, assignments, and quizzes. The nice thing about modules is as you organize your content into these pages, assignments, or quizzes, you put them in the order in which you want the students to move through. Let's take a look at some of the pieces that make up a module.
What you see here is a page. As you can tell, it looks a little bit like a Google document. You can add text, you can add links, you can add images, you can add videos, you can even upload documents from your Google Drive. Up here, you would add your title of your page, and think of this as the place where you would add content that you would provide for your students. Not necessarily assignments or quizzes, but just content like videos that you want students to watch, or maybe you would embed a Flipgrid link here for students to do the Flipgrid activity, or maybe you want articles to go in here for students to interact with. This would be the majority of your content and where it would go for students. You can really make it look like whatever you want it to look like. You'll notice that the assignment page and the quiz page will look very similar to this with some added features to make it a little bit easier for you to create and deliver content to your students.
This is an example of an assignment. As you notice, it looks very similar to the page layout. You have your rich content editor. You have your open box here that you can add things into. If you wanted to still add a YouTube video for them to watch to go along with an assignment, or links to other sites or anything like that, you can build all that in there. The one thing you'll notice is as I scroll down, this is where you take care of the logistics of an assignment. The point value, the category, all of that good stuff. There's even some different assignment types you can put in here. This is where things like if you want to do external tools like Flipgrid or Ed Puzzle or Kami, all of those things still work in here too. And there's also some built-in Canvas submission types too that we will get to a little bit later. But when we're thinking about building in Canvas, the assignment pages look very similar to the pages layout with the added logistical piece at the bottom for adding in your assignments.
So now we have an example of a quiz that's already been created. What you'll notice is there's a title right here, and this would be a window assessment for 4th grade. We've got the article here for students to read, and this is not a student view. This is still the view of what a teacher would see when they're building it. And we've got different quiz types here. We've got a graded quiz or a practice quiz, and you can even do some surveys. Again, we'll get more into the details of what all of those things mean a little bit later when we create quizzes for you. And then you have some options to sync it to PowerSchool. We're going to scroll down here. We've got other options allowing students to see their answers. A little bit similar to Google Forms and how you have options to allow students to see their answers right away. And then who you would assign it to and when it's due and when it's available. Now I'm going to go back up here because you're probably wondering where the questions are. If I click on questions here, you can see that these questions were added in. As a teacher, when I'm building these questions, if there was nothing here, there would be an option over here to build the questions. So I'm going to click on this so you can see what they look like. These are the questions that were built off of a window assessment, and they were just copied and pasted over. And the correct answers are selected here. It was really easy to build this assessment. So here we have it. And if I wanted to add a new question, I could do that down here at the bottom. I can also create a question bank if I wish. I also can attach outcomes to these assessments. So this particular quiz is based on a certain standard, and in Canvas, they're called outcomes. So I would attach those outcomes to this particular assessment, and then we would be able to view that in the Learning Mastery Gradebook later on, and we'll show you what that looks like.
Okay, so we just took a look at the pieces that make up a module. We talked about pages, assignments, and quizzes. Now let's look at what a module as a whole looks like when the whole file folder is put together and ready. This is what it looks like from a teacher side on a build side. I've got the title of my module, and I have all of the pieces, the pages, the assignments. Anywhere I see the little green piece of paper, those would be pages. Anywhere I see the green piece of paper with the pencil, those would be assignments. And then the rocket ship would be the quizzes. I have created this module and I've designed it in such a way that it moves the students through the content in the order and at the time that I want it to happen. I can create this module so that students are free to move from page to page or assignment to page through it on their own, or I can set so that there are requirements. I can make it so that students can only move on to a page when they have marked it as done, when they have viewed an item, they've maybe contributed to a page, or if it's a quiz or an assignment, if they have scored a certain score to move on. I have that ability to create my module in that way. So again, look at your module as a file folder. I've put all of my pieces in my file folder in the way that I want them to move through. This will obviously help with our gradual release model and mastery learning because I can arrange my I do, we do, and you do pieces throughout my module, and I can set up that they have to master a part of the module or the module as a whole before they can move on to the next module.
Tyler just showed you what a module looks like in a list view. I'm going to show you what it looks like when you take a student directly to the first page of their module. This might be more beneficial for younger students or students that you don't think will be able to handle a whole list of all their modules. So right now I am on my home page. Remember when we looked back at pages and how to create content with images and links and all of those things? That's what this is right here. This is a page. And I'm going to show you some examples of pages and assignments as well while we're going through this. I'm going to go ahead and click on this button here that says weekly work. And this is another page where I've just pulled in some images and linked them. I'm going to click here on this unit 1, and it takes me straight to the very first page in the module rather than taking me to the entire module list. Still, students have the ability to move through to the next portion of their module, but they don't have to see the whole long list of activities in the module. Again, you'll notice this is another page, and I'm in the teacher build side of this in Canvas, and you'll notice here it says pages. You'll notice that I've got a PDF embedded here, and I've got a video embedded here. I'm going to go on to the next page where I've got another page here, and I've got a Jamboard linked where students can just be taken straight to the Jamboard and do the activity associated with this particular assignment. I'm going to go to the next one, and this one is actually an assignment. So I've got assignments right here. It looks very similar to the page that you've seen before, but this is an assignment. Additionally, I could put a video here on this page if I wanted to. It looks very similar to the previous pages. And if I go to the next one, I've got an ed puzzle as an assignment embedded here as well. So all of these pages look very similar, but they're categorized a little bit differently.
The next piece of Canvas we're going to take a look at is the option to use Mastery Path. This is another piece that the district is really excited about using because it really helps us differentiate our learning for students on different topics. Now, as we take a look at Mastery Path, please know this is the direction that we are headed. This is not something that's necessarily we're going to have ready to go by August, but it's kind of where we're going, and you'll see why. Before we take a look at what mastery paths look like in Canvas, take a look at this quick flow chart so we can just take a look at what it is. You would start with a topic introduction. Then you would give your students a pretest in Canvas. The pretest would decide which path the students go down depending on the score. The score is totally customizable by you, the teacher, so you can kind of decide where you want your students to go. If a student were to score, let's say, a 90 or above on the pretest, they would be sent down path A, or the extension activities. This path would include extension activities, enrichment activities, things like that on their way to the post-tests. Any student that scores, say, between a 70 and a 90 would be sent down path B, the expected instruction. This path would be the target area where students would typically be for their age or grade level or course level and move through some of those targeted activities on their way to the post-test. Any student that scores a, say, 69 and below on the pretest would be sent down path C, the supportive instruction. This would be the path for students who are struggling, maybe need some remedial activities, and then move on to the target activities on their way to the post-test. Don't get overwhelmed by the number of activities that you see created here. As you can see, some of these colors show different things in different places. So these expected activities might repeat themselves up here in the extension activities. The same thing down here in path C, these two activities might be the exact same up here. So it's not like you're creating all brand new activities for each of these paths. Now let's take a look at what this looks like in Canvas. So when building mastery paths in Canvas, you first start out by building modules. I have an example module here called the ecosystems module. Now, as you look down through, as I scroll, there are a lot of things in this module. This is just an example, and it does not need to be this large of a module to make mastery paths. In fact, if I go down a little farther, here's a module with less things in it that can also be used as mastery paths. The other thing to note is that not all students are going to be using every single thing in the module. They're only going to be using the things that are on their specific mastery path. So as you see here, I've got my pretest, and then I have this mastery paths button. When I click on this, it's going to show me the literal paths. So you can see that this pretest was out of 100 points. I've set it for 90 and above to go down this path, 70 above to go down path B here, and 0 up to 70 would go down path C. As you take a look at these different paths, I've taken the pieces from in the module and I have arranged them into the paths. You'll notice that some things repeat themselves. So for example, this ecosystems and food webs Kahoot is also down here in path B and also makes an appearance down here in path C. It's all leveled and it comes when your students need it. You'll also notice that at the end, it's all the same assessment. They take a different path to get there, hoping that by the time they get to the end, they have mastered the skill. So as a review, when we're thinking about mastery paths, it first starts with the module, the pieces that go into the module, and then I organize all of those pieces into the paths that best fit for my students to master the skill.
Another feature of Canvas that we really love here at Concord is the Mastery Learning Gradebook. So in addition to your regular gradebook that syncs with PowerSchool, you also have a Learning Mastery Gradebook that looks a lot like this. Now, as you can see, we just have some test students in there right now, and there aren't any actual grades, but you'll see the standards right across the top. These are third grade standards. And over here, you'll notice that there are color codes. So mastery, near mastery, below mastery, and well below mastery. And in an actual situation, if there were students in there with grades, it would look a little bit like this. So as you can see, on this particular standard, this 1.1, and outcome is just another word for standard, Jessica Doe has been assessed on this standard 3 different times, and she has passed that standard 3 times. So she is meeting mastery. Now you can see underneath, Max Johnson is near mastery because he has gotten 1.8 out of 3. This is a great way to track how your students are mastering various standards that you're assessing in your classroom. When you create quizzes and you attach those outcomes, this will automatically track that for you. So for K-6 teachers, think about your success times and how you organize your groups. This will really aid in that process. And 7 through 12 teachers, as you're creating assessments and you're attaching standards or you're creating common assessments, this is another piece that will aid you in assessing whether or not your students are mastering those standards.
An additional feature to Canvas is the flexible teacher design that you have to personalize your course. As we know right now, Google Classroom doesn't allow for a lot of teacher design and personalization within it, but Canvas will allow that. This is really going to allow you to design your online learning space for your kids and personalize it to their age group. Also, it'll be kind of a one-stop shop. There are a lot of things that can live right inside of Canvas. For an example, if you do Edpuzzle or Flipgrid or Seesaw or many other things, you can embed those tools that you were already using onto a page in Canvas so you don't have to send your students out to a whole nother tab. It can be right there, which is really nice. Another huge piece that we'll have is what's called the Gradebook Passback. This means that assignments and quizzes that you create in Canvas and then that you grade in Canvas can be passed over to PowerSchool for the official gradebook there. Unlike right now, the gradebook in Google Classroom does not talk to PowerSchool. The Canvas gradebook will talk to PowerSchool. That's going to be a huge piece for us. And finally, the one big thing too that's really nice about this is there's going to be the option to assign multiple roles for people in your course. This means our support staff, like our paras, our support teachers, things like that, there'll be different options. Right now in Google Classroom, all you have the option to do is add them as a teacher or a student. But within Canvas, you can add them to give them sort of like teacher access without editing access, but they can see teacher sides of things. The other piece will be parents. We'll be able to add our parents in a whole new way that's a lot better than Google Classroom. Right now with Google Classroom, if they're added, they just get a weekly report. With Canvas, we can add them in so that they can see more of the content in the grades when they want to and not have to wait for the weekly report. Let's take a quick look at what we talk about with personalization. You saw this screen earlier, but we just want to bring it back up. This would be a great example of a home page. As you can see here, I've got buttons and all of these are linked to things. This is the first thing that students see when they first open their course. And so they can see right where they need to go. If it's time for the Google Meet, they click here. If it's time for the weekly work, they click here. If they need helpful, maybe remedial videos or there's how-to videos, they're right there for them. This is really nice. Here is an example of an 8th grade science course that's personalized more towards the teacher and for the higher grades. You can kind of see that it's got a little bit about the teacher. It's got an awesome color theme going on and a lot of the buttons here as well. You can build this throughout the course to really personalize it to exactly what you and your students need to be successful. And of course, for our littles in kindergarten, we can make it very basic with pictures in simple words for them to follow as well. So, this really is a great way for our students from kindergarten all the way up through our seniors in high school to use this platform.
So, what is next? Our next episode will be focusing on content creation. We will actually be getting into your course and we will start building modules. So, think about your homepage and what you might want that to look like. If you want to come next time with materials that you might want to practice with, that would be great. If you want to come next time with actual materials that you think you'll be using at the beginning of year, that would be even better. But next time when you come, we will actually be showing you how to build pages, how to build assignments, and how to build quizzes. So get ready, buckle up, and here we go.